I'm very happy to announce the moderator of our next session, very provocatively titled Finance Plus question mark, that is not a typo, What Handmade Supply Chains Need. This is hosted by Creative Dignity. She leads India Development Review's editorial team and is responsible for executing ideas, content, and editorial strategy. Prior to this, she worked at Dasra and Edelgive Foundation across research and diligence verticals on issues such as health, sanitation, gender, and strategic philanthropy. Early on in her career, she worked at the world's largest youth-run nonprofit organization and was a founding member of a language training company in Budapest, Hungary. Please welcome Director, India Development Review, Sneha Philip.
Thanks, Sneha. So we did that on purpose just to have, a talking point for the conversation. So Priya laid out the report for us. She's given us a sense of what the sector looks like, what the huge opportunity that's really staring us in the face is, where some of the gaps are. We've seen some of those numbers. And now we're actually going to hear from some of those entrepreneurs, some of the people that Priya was referring to, the businesses they're running, what are the challenges they're facing, what are they doing differently, what are they looking for, what are their aspirations, what are their needs. So we're actually going to be hearing from 3 really diverse entrepreneurs. And we also have the other side of the table with us, so we're mixing things up a little bit. I'll invite all of our speakers onto the stage and do very brief introductions so that we have more time for conversation and learning about them. So Inshada, Seemantini, Deepanshu, Nitin, please do join us while I get into quick intros for all of you. So our first panelist, Inshada. Inshada, wave at everyone. So Inshada is the founder of Tubruk, which is an enterprise that brings the traditional handicrafts of Kashmir to customers all over the world. And Inshada is reviving handmade crafts like Ari embroidery through her work at Tubruk. Interestingly, she actually did her bachelor's degree in science. I think she was pursuing the medical stream before she went on to do an MBA in craft marketing and entrepreneurship, and was then selected by Commitment to Kashmir, an organization that supports young craftspeople and artisans from Kashmir to become sustainable entrepreneurs. And with their support is now running Tubruk. So we're going to be hearing more from Inshada very soon. We also have Seemantini Mihir with us. Seemantini is a co-founder and director at Studio Coppre, where she leads brand and digital. So Studio Coppre is a design-led enterprise, and they've really elevated, the copper craft to a fine art. Seemantini also serves as president on the board of the Kishkinda Trust, and she really believes in the power that Handmade has to address so many different issues that we grapple with as a society, right? So whether it's livelihoods, sustainable living, preserving crafts, preserving heritage, and Seemantini is going to tell us a little bit more about some of that as we get into the conversation. Our third panelist, Nitin. Nitin Pamnani is Nitin, can you wave at everyone? Thank you. Nitin is a co-founder at iTokri. So Nitin actually had a short stint as a filmmaker before he set up iTokri, co-founded it with his wife Gia in 2010. And iTokri is a sustainable lifestyle brand. They're an e-commerce platform. You could also call them that, I think. And they represent the Indian handicrafts and handloom industry and connect customers and artisans on the same platform. And iTokri's team, 95% of their team are actually women who come from economically backward parts of society. And our fourth panelist, so Deepanshu Khandelwal, doesn't need to wave because he's the only person now left, but thank you for doing it anyway. Deepanshu is also comes from an entrepreneurial background, but today he's sitting on the panel representing Catalyst AIC. So Catalyst is an incubation center set up under a grant by Niti Aayog, and they incubate and invest in, their focus is on crafts enterprises. So Deepanshu is going to be telling us about, what they're seeing, what is some of the change that he's seeing, what the funder side, what the investor side is coming in with. Deepanshu has diverse entrepreneurial experience himself as well. So he set up the tech Tech Portal, which is a global tech news platform. He's worked at a healthcare startup. He's been part of the government of Rajasthan's startup development program, and he now leads Catalyst AIC. So that's a little bit about our panelists. Thank you very much for joining us. And without any further ado, we're going to get straight into the conversation. I'll join you guys here. Hello? Okay, so to start off with, I think I'd like each of our panelists to tell us a little bit about their, why did they start their enterprise? What was the human story kind of behind setting up their enterprise? Inshada, if we could start with you.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for the lovely introduction and thanks for inviting me here. This is Inshada. I'm founder at Tubruk. So Tubruk is a social enterprise. So the Tubruk actually means blessings or souvenir things. So whenever you visit some place, so you have everyone that from your home or your friends, they told you to bring something from that place. So the Tubruk is actually souvenir thing. So when I started Tobruk, I was granted by the grants by Commitment to Kashmir. It was a CSR project from Tata. So I'm really very thankful to C2K who supported me to start my enterprise, and named it as Tobruk. So as you all know, thank you for all the people who helped me to start the journey. Thank you.
And Inshita, why did you start Tubruk? What was your motivation?
When I was doing my MBA in craft management and craft development institute, so that time I was very interested in crafts. And there's a one craft at sari embroidery. So the people are leaving the craft and because they are not getting the proper wages, and there's a machine intervention in that craft. So then I thought I should start this to start the enterprise and to help the craftspeople in this sector, and that's why I started Tobruk.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Seemantini, can you tell us why you and your co-founders set up Studio Copper?
Copper is our brand name, and the first craft we started working with was a craft cluster in Maharashtra. So that's why it's the namesake. So we felt that back in the 2000s when there was a huge exodus of artisans, skilled, trained artisans, with this amazing skill sets that they have. They were all quitting being artisans and taking on other jobs to support their families. So at the same time, my colleague, my co-founder Rashmi, who's a designer, she had also contemporized the craft a little bit. Made new products that speak to the current sensibilities of how people use objects today. So it was a coming together of product design, a social need for artisans to somebody to take stock that this is a heritage craft, and it's just frittering away. So and we also come from professional backgrounds. We understand the huge benefits that working as the professional ways of working can have on in the impact space. So we wanted to bring in that marketing and that narrative and build new markets. So we wanted to bring that to the craft space. Yeah.
Thanks, Seemantini. Nitin, tell us about the motivation behind starting iTokri.
नहीं, हमने तो जिद में शुरू कर दिया था, ऐसा कुछ करना था. I was in Delhi doing films and I wanted to move back to Gwalior, and Gwalior is my hometown. I wanted to do something which I could do from Gwalior. I had a very keen interest in crafts, और उस समय कुछ crafts में ऐसा online कुछ भी नहीं था. तो it was a huge opportunity we saw there, and बस ये सोच के शुरू करा और पता नहीं था कैसे करेंगे, बस करना था और फिर करते चले गए. तो इसको समझते चले गए. मेरा कुछ क्राफ्ट का बैकग्राउंड भी नहीं रहा है. जो भी है पिछले 10 सालों में सबको सुन के, सबको देख के ही सीखा है, और अभी भी वही प्रोसेस ऑन है. बस जो सही लगता है वो अभी कर रहे हैं.
Great, thank you. So I think that gives us a bit of a sense of just, the fact that craft enterprises, handmade enterprises really aren't homogenous. You have so many different motivations to it, and we'll learn more about that. Deepanshu, tell us, what is Catalyst AIC all about? Why does it exist?
The why is very interesting because I probably as Nitin mentioned, my background has never been from crafts or even impact or any of those sectors. I came from a startup background and a corporate background. And our host institute, IFMR, which is based in Chennai, they run several centers which are into research and MSME research. Somebody common connect came to me and said, we are starting this center in Jaipur and we are looking for somebody to head it. So would you be interested in doing that? And they told me there's no office, there's no team, there's nobody here. You are going to be the first person who's going to design this entire thing. But we want to focus on crafts. And the reason they wanted to do that is because Catalyst initially started as a fintech-led program, and we were working on financial inclusion for last mile communities. That pretty much accelerated once demonetization happened. So all of our efforts were given a big boost once people switched to digital payments and they were kind of forced to get into that particular segment. So we thought that, okay, the fintech part is kind of taken care of, and we were looking at other opportunities, and we realized that the single largest livelihood provider in the rural segment is crafts. I mean, we talk about agri, we talk about farm, but after extensive research, we realized that it is crafts, and that's how Catalyst came into picture as a craft-focused ecosystem player in 2019 in this format. And then recently, the government, through Ministry of Commerce, they also kind of believed that we are probably very few of those people who are working for craft sectors. And they decided that, okay, let's kind of push them and give them a seed fund to invest in craft-led startups. And that's how our seed fund came into picture, from which we started investing in January this year itself. And that's how it has been. That's how the Catalyst journey has been so far. And we have worked with over 35 craft startups so far. We've invested in 4 so far. We are looking for more. But yes, that's what the journey has been.
Great, thank you. So we're going to get into just trying to understand a little bit more about some of these enterprises and what some of the challenges that they face look like. Inshada, so you started Tubruk in 2019. You're our, youngest,
No, it
2019?
was 2017.
2017.
Yeah, then Tubruk came into 2019.
2019. So you're our, the youngest enterprise in a sense,
Yes.
on the stage today.
Yes.
What is one, and you're working in Kashmir, it's quite a unique context as well. There's a very rich history of crafts in Kashmir. So what is one key challenge that you've kind of had to face as you've set up
I
Tubruk?
think the first challenge that I faced is to build the trust with artisans. So that was the challenge for me. So उस challenge को build करने के लिए मैंने एक strategy use की. So I pay them the wages on time, and even I pay them wages more as compared to others as per the wage law. Like if it's artisan is an experienced artisan, so I pay him as for his work. So how many hours he works for me. So that is the thing I used in my enterprise.
And why did they not trust you initially when you first went to them?
Because I was a student that time, so it was very hard for them. And even they also work with middlemen, so they provide them sometimes advance money, and even they kept the margins also. But उनका trust पहले से उनके साथ build हुआ था. तो मेरे साथ I think मैं student थी तब they think इसके साथ काम करने में हमें क्या मिलेगा. तो it was very challenging for me.
And now they are
Yeah.
more likely to work with you than with other
Yes,
middlemen?
yes, absolutely. They work with me as compared to the other people.
Right, right.
Because there is no middleman in my work, so I pay them direct wages. So they work with me, they are getting the fully paid. So there is no commission based जहाँ पे उसमें उनको commissions लिया जाए 4%, 5% or 10%. So they are getting the proper wages.
And so how soon after they complete their work would you be making payments to them? And what does it look like when the middlemen are involved? What is the gap in the time in which they receive their payments?
Just after finishing the work, I pay them.
Immediately?
Yes, immediately.
And is that the norm? Is that...
No, there's in middlemen what they get the payments only on the Eid, when there's a festival. So when there's someone sick in their home, so that time they get the payment. But with me, they get the payment just after finishing the work.
Right. So you're really kind of connecting with
Yes,
them on a
connecting and
one-to-one
building that
basis.
trust.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Seemantini, can you tell us a little bit about, one or two challenges that...
So since we primarily work with a metal cluster, what happens, an important thing to understand is that metal products back in the 2000s the typology of the products were all made for joint families. So the products were not really relevant for families that had now become nuclear and started living in apartments, because craft products has always been a dialogue between the user and the maker. According to the needs of the user, the product has always been crafted like that. So that gap had to be bridged. So once we did that, we realized that we also want to create a market. So this is where the challenge comes in, the second challenge, because we've gone past that startup stage, and now ours is a seasonal business, right? So there are months of low season, and that are followed by peak season. So there is a huge problem with the working capital cycle that is there. So this is something that we really struggle with, and by the time an entire year is over, all our energies and all our focus is just on getting the products off the shelf for that season. So what happens is there are other craft communities waiting to be intervened. There are other craft clusters where there are very few younger artisans taking on. So we feel that from the vision that the way we look at things, we want to intervene with more craft clusters. So one challenge is to run the current business with its working capital challenges, and the other is growth, to grow and to work with other craft communities. So these are the two.
Thanks, Seemantini. Nitin?
See, our challenge, we are an online business. So our challenge was basically to take a product which is not made for a digital space in a digital space. क्योंकि जो ई कॉमर्स का वर्ल्ड है ना, वो ऐसे प्रोडक्ट ढूंढता है जो एक जैसे बहुत सारे बन सकते हैं. And that's how this whole ecology of an e-commerce business works. It should have one SKU and it should be scaled. It can be scaled at as many volumes you can create. But we were dealing with a product which जो वो एक जैसे बहुत सारे नहीं बन सकते. कुछ क्राफ्ट्स में ज़रूर बन सकते हैं, बट मैक्सिमम में वो आप दुपट्टे हैं तो वो अलग अलग बन रहे हैं, या साड़ियाँ सब अलग अलग बन रही. तो एक हमारे लिए सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज शुरू से ही रहा, और इसको हम लोगों ने इसका एक अपना ऑर्गेनिक सिस्टम डेवलप करा iTokri में कि कैसे हम एक हैंडमेड प्रोडक्ट को एक ई कॉमर्स रेडी प्रोडक्ट में कन्वर्ट करेंगे. ये आज भी आई थिंक ई कॉमर्स का सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज है. और जो लोग ऑनलाइन डिजिटल स्पेस में क्राफ्ट प्रोडक्ट ले जाना चाहते हैं, तो वो सबसे पहला कंसर्न यही आता है कि इसको कैसे आप इसका वॉल्यूम, इस पर्टिकुलर एसकेयू के वॉल्यूम्स कैसे क्रिएट कर, तो वो बन नहीं सकता. तो वो इसलिए थोड़ा सा अनस्केलेबल एक ऐसी जगह आ जाता है ये प्रोडक्ट जो, तो वो उस चैलेंज को हम लोग अपने तरीके से डील करते हैं और फिर उसको एक स्केलेबल सेटअप में कन्वर्ट करते हैं. तो ये एक हमारा चैलेंज रहा और उसको हमने अपने तरीके से ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम रिजॉल्व किया है.
और उस तरीके के बारे में थोड़ा आप बता सकते हो?
वो तो फिर बहुत टाइम लग जाएगा फिर आपको से.
ब्रीफ में भी.
मतलब हम लोग उसको क्या ये एक फोटो, ई कॉमर्स में ना आप प्रोडक्ट नहीं खरीदते, आप फोटो खरीदते हो. तो यू सेल, इफ द फोटो इज गुड, इट डजंट मैटर हाउ द प्रोडक्ट इज, यू जस्ट नीड टू एक्सपीरियंस द फोटोग्राफ, द विजुअल ऑफ. अगर विजुअल अच्छा है तो प्रोडक्ट सेल हो जाता है. तो वो अच्छा विजुअल लेना हमेशा महंगा होता है, तो क्योंकि उसमें बहुत सारी रिसोर्स, एनर्जी, ये सब लगती है. तो वो इस जो एक अनस्केलेबल प्रोडक्ट है उसका विजुअल अगर आप बहुत अच्छा लेते हैं, तो वो उसकी जो कॉस्ट है वो एक प्रोडक्ट जो अनस्केलेबल है वो झेल नहीं पाता. तो वो इसलिए ये इसको हम लोग, इसलिए हमने पूरा उसका एक इन हाउस पूरा एक स्टूडियो सेटअप बनाया, कैसे एक क्राफ्ट प्रोडक्ट का फोटो करना चाहिए वो हमने देखा. जैसे अब एक पैच वर्क में काम कर रहे हैं, तो पैच वर्क की 200 बैग है तो वो 200 SKU है, बिकॉज एवरी प्रोडक्ट इज अ डिफरेंट, इट हैज़ अ डिफरेंट पैच. यू कांट सेल एन कस्टमर ऑनलाइन कि वो हमने एक पैच वर्क बैग आपको भेजा है, वो उसको वही चाहिए जो उसने फ़ोटो में देखा है. तो वो हमने एक ऐसा सिस्टम डेवलप करा है जिसमें आप 200 SKU का फ़ोटो ले सकते हैं अलग अलग, और फिर वो 200 SKU आप वेबसाइट पे अपलोड कर सकते हैं. तो ये एक पूरा इसका एक पूरा सिस्टम है कैसे हम लोग काम करते हैं.
I'll just add to what Nitin is saying is that, you know, as a producer and as a as a retail as a D2C, the challenge is also that the D2C space is evolving every day. And when we started our brand, you know, we had a fairly organic reach available to us, but today that is not the case. And the challenges of toggling between a D2C business and a craft business, you know, that is quite challenging.
And how does that, how you're grappling with that? What are some of the solutions or attempts at solutioning looking
I
like?
think it begins at the design stage where we conceptualize that every year it begins there, because you know what is this edit going to talk about, how is it going to, and one thing is that even though we have new designs, we have not changed the crafting technique, so to that extent it is 100% authentic. So it starts at the design stage where, you know, we say that this is what, these techniques are going to be used and all of that. And once that, it all happens in stages. So the design stage is dealt with at the design stage. And then we move to the, you know, narrative building and the marketing stage, which comes a little later. So we take it on one step at a time.
Deepanshu, does this resonate? Are these, some of the challenges that you're also seeing, and what are some others that you think it's important for other ecosystem players to kind of understand and know about when it comes to craft enterprises?
Yeah, I think, see, working capital is a challenge for everybody. It's a no-brainer. Everybody is struggling with finance, especially the craft sector. The problem is investment by and large is taken as tech VC investments, private equity investments, and so on and so forth. And we tend to relate craft investments to those kind of investments. And that is where the gap comes in. In our case, there's a funder side problem also, that the kind of pipeline that we are getting is not that great. A lot of times products are simply off the shelf products that are available with the artisans, somebody putting them on e-commerce and just selling it out without any product innovation or design innovation. I'm not saying every enterprise is like that, but most of what we have seen has come from that kind of a pipeline. So product innovation, that comes even before working capital. When you get to working capital, before that, you need to innovate on the product first, and that's the standard model for any investing. Let's not segregate craft startups from any other kind of startups, at least on the product innovation front. Any VC also invests in a tech company after seeing product innovation at some level. It cannot be a ऑफ द शेल्फ प्रोडक्ट कि हमने कोई ओपन सोर्स एपीआई उठाई और कोई एक ऐप बना दी और किसी वीसी के पास चले गए कि आप हमें $10 million दे दो. डज नॉट वर्क दैट वे. सिमिलरली इन क्राफ्ट यू कांट पिक अप किसी आप बगरू के क्लस्टर में गए, ब्लू पॉटरी के 4-5 प्लेट्स देखे, यू पिक्ड अप, यू बिल्ट एन ई-कॉमर्स प्लेटफॉर्म एंड यू स्टार्ट सेलिंग. दैट्स नॉट हाउ इट वर्क्स. That's what we have seen. We have the enterprises that we have invested in. Our investment committee is minutely focused on कि product innovation क्या हो रहा है. How are you changing that particular product to suit the current market needs? Because the market is ever evolving. And after COVID, with the digital push, Instagram push, social media push, and now even the threads push that has come very recently, it's become a very evolving market. So you need to change that, your product as per what the market demands. Some of the products that worked 50 years back may not work now. Some art connoisseurs may want it. Somebody who is in depth ingrained into that particular art may want it, but the larger market that you're catering to may not want it anymore. So you need to change your product as per that, and that is one of the challenges that I face. The second thing is, and this is based on my limited understanding in the past 3-4 years of working with craft companies, every craft enterprise, at least most of them that come to us, उनका at least पहला line ये होता है कि हम middleman हटा रहे हैं. I feel it is very bad to categorize this middleman person as somebody who is just demolishing the craft and the craft industry at all. At some point in time, you're also a middleman, right? You're just procuring something from the artisan and you're selling it in the market. You're a good-hearted middleman. Somebody is a bad-hearted middleman. But middlemen are not bad. Not everybody is bad. And जब भी कोई startup ये value proposition लेके आता है कि जी हम middleman हटा रहे हैं, आप हमें इसलिए invest करिए, that's not a good value proposition for me, at least. And for our investment committee also, I can speak for them, right? That cannot be your unique selling point, that you are just removing a middleman. आप नहीं थे तो वो middleman था. इसी वजह से वो क्राफ्ट जितनी भी आज आगे आ पाई है, इसलिए आ पाई है बिकॉज वो मिडिलमैन कुछ भी करके वो जोधपुरी जूतियां मार्केट में बेच रहा था. वट एवर द कमीशन वॉज, आप भी कमीशन चार्ज कर रहे हो. आप भी profit earn कर रहे हो, right? You're also making a business. That guy is also making business. You are good-hearted in the sense you want to develop the craft, you want to do product design, you want to impart training and skills to artisans. That's a USP for us. But if the first line that comes out of your pitch deck is this, that's a problem that we have faced.
Okay, thanks. We're here to talk about financing, right? So where we have three enterprises at three very different stages of growth. So we're going to go into that a little bit. Inshada, you're still relatively early stage. Tell us about how you've been financing Tubruk so far, and what is the kind of financing support that you need at this point in time?
First, initially, I was supported by C2K. Then I took part in the exhibitions and built connections. So after that, when I started Tubruk, so after that, I started taking part exhibitions through my own money. So I used the money that I have in. तो उसके बाद मैंने वो एग्जीबिशंस में यूज़ किया, यहाँ से कनेक्शंस मिले, तो फिर उससे मैं फंड करती गई तुबरुक को. एंड इवन आई वाज वर्किंग एज अ मार्केटिंग एग्जीक्यूटिव इन गवर्नमेंट प्रोजेक्ट, सो दैट आई लेफ्ट रिसेंटली. And apart from financing, I need more connections to retail stores so they can provide us the wholesale orders. And also, apart from financing, we need connections throughout the India so they can see the craft of India. मतलब I mean कश्मीर का भी जो है craft वो देखेंगे, and design innovations we need to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think we're hearing this came up earlier in
I
the
think
morning
product
as
innovation
well.
is more important in any craft sector.
Yeah.
जैसे अगर हम कहेंगे कि ट्रेडिशनल क्राफ्ट है, उसको भी रखना है, that has its own aesthetic. But we need more innovations in every craft sector, so it becomes more utility, and even design, as per design, its utility is increased.
Yeah.
So
And so so your financing has been a combination of a grant from C2K
it was
and then
initially.
bootstrapped
Yeah.
in a sense.
Yes.
If there was some other kind of financing that is there some other kind of financing support that would really help you with the enterprise at this stage? Would you have an ask for that?
I think this is market support is main important.
Yeah. So I think we've heard the connections and market
Yeah,
support
connection is very important.
a few times
Because
today.
मैं कश्मीर में रह रही हूँ, यहाँ पे जो बैंगलोर बेस्ड स्टूडियोज है या जो भी रिटेल शॉप्स है, तो दे नो द मार्केट हियर एज कम्पेयर टू मी. तो मैं कश्मीर में रह रही हूँ, आई डोंट नो व्हाट इज गोइंग ऑन हियर एंड व्हाट इज गोइंग थ्रू आउट द वर्ल्ड. एज आई नो ऑनलाइन तो पढ़ते हैं न्यूज़, बट जो फिजिकली लाइव देख रहे हैं मार्केट, तो दैट्स मोर इम्पॉर्टेंट. तो दे हैव द knowledge what market needs, so they can tell us and we can make that products as per the market demands. So
Thanks.
that's more important. And apart from financing to the craft sector, we want more and more institutions like CDI, so that craft development institute, so that young people can उसमें वो क्या करेंगे कि नॉलेज होगा उनको क्राफ्ट के, जो उनकी स्टेट का क्राफ्ट है या किसी भी स्टेट का क्राफ्ट अगर वो पढ़ने जाएंगे. अपार्ट फ्रॉम MBA, दे आर प्रोवाइडिंग द बेसिक नॉलेज ऑफ क्राफ्ट्स, सो दैट्स मोर इम्पॉर्टेंट. अगर यंग पीपल इसमें इन्वॉल्व हो रहे हैं तो
Innovation will come from there
innovations,
as
creativity,
well. Yeah, yeah.
that's important.
Seemantini, and so Studio Copper was set up in 2014.
So,
was it?
so we received first we received a grant from Forbes Marshall Foundation to commence Copper as a livelihood project, and that's when the founder team came together, and we always wanted to we had an we wanted to institute the organization as a for-profit social venture, and that's what we did, and we received seed capital funding for that, and most of our working capital is self-funded at the moment.
Right.
Yes.
So given the stage that you're at, and if you can give us a sense of that as well.
Yeah.
And what would the ask be? Because
Yeah.
we have financiers, investors in the room.
Yes, yes.
What would the ask be?
Yes. So what we've been able to do is we've been able to, what we've done with the craft is we've been able to show at, New York International Gift Fair, Milan Design Week, and we feel that we sense that there is a huge demand for handmade products worldwide. I mean, what with climate change, staring at us, handmade is the answer to to these problems, and there is a lot of demand everywhere, but there has to be a way to funnel this demand within India itself. I was just reading this morning that the gifting market alone is 250,000 crores in India. Within that, corporate gifting alone is 12,000 crores. So, but where are these orders, And most of them come to us in the last minute. But that's the market dynamic. Everybody, because it's not a priority on any of the corporates to, funnel their corporate gifting 3-4 months in advance. And contrary to that, handmade products take that much time to produce. So, we need to find a way to, forecast these demands, to build stock. And, so I think there's a lot of models need to be built, and, this requires a lot of funding on its own, demand forecasting. Because imagine if that how big the gift market is, the packaging that comes with it, the products that go with it. Yeah. I mean, if they're all sustainable, it's a win-win for everyone.
Nitin, what about with iTokri? How have you financed iTokri, and why have you made the choices that you've made? You've had a 13-year journey.
नहीं, हमने तो अभी तक तो कहीं पैसा नहीं लिया है किसी से, कोई ऐसा फंडिंग, सेल्फ फंडेड बूटस्ट्रैप्ड ही है शुरू से। ऐसा नहीं है कि लोग नहीं आए, बट एक्चुअली समझ नहीं पाते हैं लोग कि कर कैसे रहे हैं और क्या कर रहे हैं और कैसे ये हो पा रहा है। क्योंकि जो मैट्रिक्स के साथ लोग आते हैं ना आपके पास पैसे देने के लिए, वो एक अलग इकोसिस्टम की मैट्रिक्स है। वो मैट्रिक्स आपके इकोसिस्टम की नहीं है। वो एक अलग, जो प्रिया भी बोल रही थी या जो सब तरफ से जो बात यही आ रही थी कि ये हमारे लिए बनी हुई फाइनेंसिंग के टूल्स, हम ये इस इकोसिस्टम के लिए डिज़ाइन नहीं है। तो जब आपके पास कोई आता है ना इस तरह से, तो वो आपके अंदर वही तरह के रिजल्ट्स देखना चाहता है जो किसी टेक कंपनी में देखना चाहता है। तो वो आप एक दूसरे तरह का काम करते हैं। तो इसलिए हम लोग ने कभी भी जो है वो हाथ नहीं रखा कि हमें जाना है उस रास्ते। ऐसा नहीं है कि ढूंढा नहीं, बट क्योंकि कंपनी शुरू से ही प्रॉफिटेबल है, हम लोगों ने उसके बेसिक्स सेट रखे हैं और नंबर्स भी अच्छे हैं, ग्रोथ भी ठीक है, सब कुछ अच्छा ही चला है। तो कोई अच्छा मिलेगा तो हम लोग करेंगे, मतलब ऐसा मना नहीं है, बट तब तक चल रहा है, कोई इशू नहीं है। बट मैं शुरू से ही ये मानता रहा हूँ कि जैसे प्रोफेसर चैटर्जी ने भी बोला, बहुत सुंदर बोला, मैंने बहुत समय बाद इतना सुंदर किसी से सुना, और मतलब इट हैज़ रियली मूव मी फ्रॉम इनसाइड। और यही सारे प्रिंसिपल्स हैं जिस पे iTokri हम लोगों ने शुरू से ही शुरू किया। बहुत लोगों ने डिस्करेज किया कि ये क्या प्रोडक्ट है, अनस्केलेबल प्रोडक्ट है, क्या धंधा है, इसमें कोई भी बिजनेस नहीं है। बट मुझे शुरू से ही ये लगा कि ये एक मतलब दुनिया जिस डायरेक्शन में जा रही है, तो एक पॉइंट ऐसा ज़रूर आएगा जहाँ पे लोगों को ये लगेगा कि दिस इज़ द प्रोडक्ट विच वन शुड मूव टुवर्ड्स नाउ। अगर हमें रुकना है तो, अगर हमें चीज़ों को चेंज करना है तो वही बातें अब सब जगह से निकल के भी आ रही हैं। तो चाइना जैसे बोल रहा है सनराइज इंडस्ट्री है, हम लोग बोल रहे हैं सनसेट इंडस्ट्री है। तो मेरे को शुरू से ही लगा है कि ये सनराइज इंडस्ट्री है। और उसका सबसे बड़ा एग्जाम्पल है कि हम लोग यहाँ बैठे हैं और इतने सारे लोग इकट्ठे हैं, और हम लोग इस इंडस्ट्री के बारे में इंडिपेंडेंट इंटरप्राइजेस को कैसे बनाएं, कैसे बढ़ाएं, कैसे उसमें फाइनेंसिंग लेकर आए, इस पर डिस्कस कर रहे हैं। तो विच मीन्स दैट मे बी सम गवर्नमेंट मतलब उनके एंगल पे ये सनसेट लग रहा हो, बट हमारी सोसाइटी उस तरह नहीं सोच रही है। सोसाइटी एक सनराइज की तरह ही इस इंडस्ट्री को देख रही है। नहीं तो इतना पावरलूम प्रोडक्ट क्यों पैदा होता? पावरलूम प्रोडक्ट इसलिए पैदा हो रहा है ना कि लोगों को वही चीज चाहिए, सस्ती चाहिए और बहुत सारी चाहिए। बहुत सारे प्रोडक्ट हैंडलूम में, हैंडमेड में बन ही नहीं सकते, क्योंकि वो बहुत सारा पहनना और बहुत ज़्यादा पहनना, ये उस इकोलॉजी के ही बिल्कुल अपसाइड डाउन खड़ी हुई चीज़ है। क्योंकि ज़्यादा कंजम्पशन ही नहीं होना है ना, यहाँ तो थोड़ा पहनो, बट अब थोड़ा से काम नहीं चल रहा है ना, बहुत ज़्यादा चाहिए। हर इंस्टाग्राम पोस्ट के लिए एक ड्रेस चाहिए। तो वो कहाँ से आएगी? हैंडमेड बना ही नहीं सकता उतना सारा, और बना भी लेगा तो उतना सारा अर्निंग कैपेसिटी नहीं है, तो उसका डुप्लीकेट चाहिए। यानी उस एस्थेटिक की और उस तरह के प्रोडक्ट की जो एक हाथ से बने हुए प्रोडक्ट की फील देता हो या हाथ से बना हुआ हो, की डिमांड आज की तारीख में पूरी वर्ल्ड में जितनी है, चाहे वो किसी भी रीजन से हो, ऐसी पहले कभी भी नहीं थी। हम बना नहीं पा रहे हैं, इंडस्ट्री को बचा नहीं पा रहे हैं, लोग काम छोड़ रहे हैं, ये एक सप्लाई चेन लेवल का इशू है. बट डिमांड साइड पे जब भी मुझसे कोई कहता है तो मैं तो उसे ये कहता हूँ कि आज जितना डिमांड है इस तरह के सामान होगा, इतना डिमांड कभी भी दुनिया में नहीं था. और ये अपसाइड की तरफ ही जाने वाला है, क्योंकि हम पूरी दुनिया ये देख चुकी है और देख रही है, और जो भी अभी इग्नोरेंट है अगले 5 साल 8 साल में ये अवेयरनेस बढ़ेगी. जो नीलम भी बोल रही थी कि जो क्लाइमेट के जो गोल्स हैं या जो ऊपर से मैंडेट आ रहा है, जो ये बड़े बड़े ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस फंड्स बना रहे हैं, तो ये इसी इसी तरफ चीज़ों को ले जाना चाह रहे हैं कि, और तो ये चीज़ लोगों के जो पब्लिक माइंडसेट है उसमें भी ट्रिकल डाउन करेगी ना, कि हमें ये चीज़ें चाहिए, तो वो चीज़ें कहाँ से ढूंढेंगे लोग, कहाँ खरीदेंगे, कहाँ मिलेंगी. तो इसलिए ये इंटरप्राइजेस आज की तारीख में मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट, मोस्ट प्रॉफिटेबल, मोस्ट फ्यूचरिस्टिक जो है इंटरप्राइजेस है. ये मुझे शुरू से ही लगता रहा है, और अब यहाँ आकर सब लोगों से मिलके देख के लग रहा है कि वाकई
एकदम
में
सबूत है
हाँ
कि
बहुत अच्छा सेट है.
Seemantini, I wanted to pick up on something that Nitin said, because you'd mentioned this as well. You know, the understanding of what impact means in the sector when you're speaking to an investor, when you're speaking to a funder. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with that?
At Studio Copper, what we've done is we've done a deep impact work, what we call as deep impact work. We've worked intensively with one craft community, and when we've spoken to any possible financing or investing, people, the only numbers that they're only talking about scale, but there are one optic to consider right now is that there are many craft forms in which there are very few artisans remaining performing, that taking on that craft. There are very few. So, I mean, just as an aside, the birds have a, endangered list. IUCN has that endangered list. So I feel like even crafts should have that, that kind of a rating. There are some craft forms in which there are only 10 artisans remaining, and,
Wow.
so I feel like, investors need to come with that mindset that, as he said, as Nitin said, that your metrics are not going to work in this, is the community thriving? Are they getting, there are different metrics that we need to, come up with,
Yeah.
नहीं, मैं तो इसको ऐसे देखता हूँ, जैसे आपके पास अगर एज ए इन्वेस्टर या जैसे मैं अगर साल में 10 लाख रुपए अगर सेव करता हूँ, तो मैं सोचता हूँ ना काय में इन्वेस्ट करूँ. तो अलग अलग टूल्स होते हैं, गोल्ड होता है, कोई शेयर मार्केट में लगाता है, कोई क्रिप्टो में लगाता है, कोई म्यूचुअल फंड में लगाता है. तो वो एक हर तरह का एक टूल है इन्वेस्टमेंट का, जिसमें अलग अलग तरह के रिटर्न्स आते हैं. तो वो क्राफ्ट में भी जो पैसा लगेगा, इसका रिटर्न भी ये एक अलग तरह का रिटर्न देगा. ये जरूरी नहीं है कि वो रिटर्न देगा जो क्रिप्टो देगा, या वो रिटर्न देगा जो कल आईटी की कंपनी देगी. लेकिन इसका इंटरप्राइज का रिटर्न हो सकता है एफडी वाला रिटर्न हो सकता है वो म्यूचुअल फंड वाला रिटर्न हो. कुछ इंटरप्राइजेज ऐसे हो जो बहुत वॉल्यूम में स्केल करें, कुछ ना करें. बट ये बहुत समझना एक इन्वेस्टर के लिए भी ज़रूरी है कि not all investment opportunities will give same kind of result.
Just the way you cannot monetize the value of a tree that produces oxygen, you cannot monetize the heritage value of a craft product. That's my opinion.
नहीं, पैसे तो बनने चाहिए, ऐसा नहीं है कि पैसे उसमें नहीं बनने चाहिए, क्योंकि कोई भी इन्वेस्टर, कोई भी जो है वो पैसे कभी भी नहीं लगाएगा कि उसको पता हो कि इसमें से कुछ भी नहीं बनेगा. बट लेकिन वो ये है कि कितना बनेगा, कितने समय में, वो जो एक मैट्रिक्स है ना, वो समझना बहुत ज़रूरी है हमारे जो क्राफ्ट का इकोसिस्टम है उसको ध्यान में रखते हुए.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we need to make heritage preservation as a metric in itself. Because, as, Mr. Chatterjee said, and as Neelam said, these are craft forms that have been there for,
Generations.
thousands of years. How do you monetize this? Because it's invaluable. So that is a metric in itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Deepanshu, two-part question. One is just any, reflections on what our entrepreneurs have been sharing. And I think what we've heard in terms of the kind of financing they've had sounds quite traditional, right? So they've either bootstrapped their businesses or they've gotten grants to run their businesses in the early days. What are some of the newer, more innovative forms of financing that are becoming available to creative and handmade enterprises?
Yeah, so see, at Catalyst, what we have done is, rightly to what Nitin mentioned, there is a need to understand that this investment will not give the same returns as an investment in a tech company. But at the same time, what I feel is tech company investments, 1 out of 100 would give you a return. But in craft enterprises, because they are built as businesses fundamentally, 10 out of 100 would give you a return. That's one thing that is needed to be understood. And that is something we have started already seeing in 6 months of whatever investing little bit we have done. What we are trying to do is we are offering traditional financial instruments such as debt, convertibles, some form of grants as well, but at very concessionary rates and also for a very long duration of time, right? 3 year, 5 year kind of payment period, so that the capital comes immediately to the startup, but they can ultimately build a business and slowly and gradually get that capital back to us. So as an investor, at least whoever has funded our fund, they believe that this patient capital and this return that comes at a very uniform level is much better as compared to going to a tech investment and thinking कि शायद कुछ हो जाए, शायद कुछ ना भी, because you know how the environment is in tech investments also these days, right? But craft enterprises are fundamentally built, at least what I've seen so far, that they're built as businesses and they think about numbers, they think about profits, they think about making right metrics from them. I agree that metrics cannot be similar for tech, non-tech, and those areas, but I do feel as entrepreneurs, metrics are required. You cannot go to an investor without metrics, right? Ultimately, there needs to be distinguishing between an investor and a funder. A funder would give you grant, will care more about the impact that you're creating, but would care less about the returns that you make. But an investor is an investor ultimately, right? That entire term means that I'm expecting a return. It may be uniform, it may be small, but I'm expecting a return. And to expect a return, I need numbers. I need tangible metrics that you can come up with. It does not have to be 100x, 200x. I don't need that. It can be 2x, it can be 1.5x, it can be realistic, but there has to be metrics. And that is something that I feel early stage entrepreneurs getting into craft need to understand, that yes, impact is important, but it's a business you are building, and business cannot run without numbers, without metrics. And as an investor, we need those metrics to kind of evaluate where you are. If you can come up with newer metrics, like Seemantini mentioned, heritage preservation, if you can come up with those metrics and give me tangible numbers that हमने 10 artisans थे इस craft form में 15 कर दिए, right? That's a number I can evaluate you on. That makes sense. But unless and until you are not going to an investor with a metric, you can go to a funder with impact stories, you can go to a funder with qualitative stuff, but to an investor, you need to go with quantitative numbers and metrics. And that is the first thing that I think establishing as a business. And Nitin also mentioned that at the start, from the very start, they're bootstrapped and they're profitable and they're making money. So metrics are important. I do feel this will not be the same investments at tech, and we have realized that, and we are getting uniform returns. They are not catastrophic in the sense we are getting 50%, 100% return. We are getting stable returns, but we are happy with that, and our funders are happy with that because it's uniform. And every startup that we've invested so far is returning money to us. We've invested in 4 craft companies. The repayments have started after 6 months, and all of them are giving us back their repayments in time because the capital helped them to build a business, sustainable business. That's my point of view on this entire talk.
Yeah.
I
Seemantini.
just want to add one point here. You know, we recently received a mentorship from Ernst and Young Finland, all the co-founders at Studio Copper. And one of the important insights that we took away from that entire session was that we're looking at artisan communities and impact, and we're looking at, creating all of this. But there's another, entity that we are not looking at and we are not measuring, which is the customer. What is the impact that your products are having on the customer? You know, the sense of heritage and pride that they have in using these products, which are passed on from one generation to the other. There has to be a metric to also, capture that.
Yeah. So I think an openness to reimagining what some of those metrics look like. It's not cookie cutter.
Just on the customer side, because it has just come up, I do feel that all, whether you're a craft enterprise, whether you are building a business in whatever sector, some terms you need to take up from the larger investment. Like, for example, what's your customer life cycle value? How much money is the customer going to spend on your platform? These terms, although they are very exorbitant in the tech side, they are important terms, and they need to come up in the discussions that you're having with investor, because that gives the investor a confidence that this person is building a business with impact, right? And that is why it's a investable business, right? These figures and these numbers, you need to take mentoring, or you need to take business plan sessions or whatever, figure out who. There are so many people giving those mentorship sessions now, but those numbers need to be imported to the craft enterprises also. That's what I feel, that what are these some terms that come from the tech companies that you need to also kind of inculcate into your business and give those numbers to potential investors.
Yeah. I'll start with you, Nitin, for this question. So, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being the highest, if you had to rate, the need for finance, where would that come?
See, as I said, that it should be someone who understands the vision and journey of how and what we are doing. Unless that happens, I mean, I'm in no hurry.
Yeah. And what would 2 and 3 be? So if finance is 1, the highest need, what comes after that?
Supply chain, and I mean, yeah, मतलब ये 4-5 ही हेड्स होते हैं इसमें ही आपको. अभी हम लोगों का सब सॉर्टेड है. अभी हम लोग 10 साल से काम कर रहे हैं ना. कुछ ऐसा नहीं है कि ये कहाँ से आएगा, वो कहाँ से आएगा. हमको सब पता है कहाँ कहाँ से आएगा. सारा स्केल कैसे होगा, ये कैसे होगा, वो सब हमारा सॉर्टेड है. अभी हमको बस ये चाहिए कि आप अगर चल रहा है तो अच्छा चल रहा है, और पैसा आएगा तो और अच्छा चलेगा.
Improving what's already.
So Nitin is our, sounding board. When we're all frantic during the festive season, we're not getting conversions. Nitin will be like, it'll take some more time, very chilled. Yeah.
मतलब अभी समय सबसे अच्छा समय है. बट पैसा आएगा तो उसमें बिजनेस भी आएगा. वो सबको पूरी चेन में नीचे तक जाएगा. और वो ग्रो करेगा, क्योंकि कस्टमर भी लेने के लिए बैठा हुआ है. वो ले ही रहा है, और वो बढ़ ही रहा है, और अपॉर्चुनिटी भी कंटिन्यूसली राइज कर रही है. बट ये है कि राइट काइंड ऑफ कैपिटल, राइट काइंड ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट इंटरप्राइज में आएगा, तभी वो इंटरप्राइज जो है सही डायरेक्शन में जाएगी. अगर गलत इन्वेस्टमेंट आ गया या गलत पार्टनरशिप के साथ हम लोग चले गए सिर्फ इसलिए कि पैसा चाहिए, तो इट कैन जस्ट गो हेयर. एंड आई हैव सीन in my 10-year business life, lot of businesses in handmade have gone into wrong direction just because they got on with someone wrong money.
I mean, it's like the title of the session says, finance plus what?
Yeah.
What else, right? So there's Seemantini, how about you? Where would you, on a scale of 1 to 5, where would you place the need for
Finance is, of course, number 1.
Number 1.
Number 2 is...
देखो सब आए हैं ना यहाँ पे अब यहाँ.
Finance is, of course, number 1. And number 2, I would say, is patronage and customer acquisition. And number 3 would be resources again, tech resources and human resource. Yeah.
Inshada, what about you?
I think finance is number 1.
Number
Yes,
1.
because as you know, I'm from Kashmir, so वहाँ पे बहुत unemployment है. So if you are investing in Kashmir, so you are generating a huge employment for the people. As you all know, the Kashmiri crafts are very famous throughout the world. But a few decades have been that Kashmiri crafts are declining. It's because of the market. But the skills, that's not declining. But we can still provide the bestest products that the market needs. So I think finance is the first and market is second. So
See, in coming like 5 years down the line, the new customer acquisition cost is going to go rocket. It will go rocket. मतलब 4 गुना 5 गुना हो जाएगा एक नया कस्टमर एक्वायर करना. क्योंकि जिस लेवल पे इंटरप्राइजेस, सब तरह के इंटरप्राइजेस, नॉट जस्ट हैंडमेड इंटरप्राइजेस, डिफरेंट इंटरप्राइजेस आर going into the market and building their own brands, and all of this acquisition money is going into Facebook, Instagram, social media, because everyone is building an ऑनलाइन प्रेजेंस, और वहीं बन रहा है सारा. तो नया कस्टमर वहाँ से आ रहा है. अगर ऑफलाइन भी है, रिटेल में बन रहा है, तो वहाँ भी शॉप्स कि rents और ये सब नए customer को लेके आना, this cost is going to skyrocket in next 5 years. So if we need to get new brands into new enterprises into this handmade ecosystem, this is the बेस्ट टाइम.
Yeah.
अभी सबसे ठीक है, अभी फिर भी सस्टेनेबल है, आगे चल के तो मतलब अभी और बहुत बढ़ने वाला है.
Yeah.
तो ये अगर जो अपना बेस बना लेंगे, जैसे इन्होंने अभी बहुत, या कॉपर ने बहुत लंबे, हम लोग जैसे लंबे समय से वो बिल्ड करते आ रहे हैं, तो वी आर सिटिंग ऑन आई मीन अ वेरी ह्यूज कस्टमर बेस. ये अभी ब्रांड्स इन्होंने बिल्ड करे, तो आइडेंटिटी आपकी आ गई, आप आ गए वहाँ पे. अब यहाँ से आपको आगे जाना है. अब आज जितना मुश्किल है एक नए एंटरप्राइज के लिए खड़ा होना, आगे 5 साल बाद आप सोचो कितना
और भी
कितना मुश्किल होगा एक नया कस्टमर एक्वायर करना.
तो अगर आप इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं क्राफ्ट बेस्ड एंटरप्राइज में, तो इम्पैक्ट बहुत है इसमें. जैसे आप बोलते हैं कि हमने क्या किया, तो सस्टेनेबिलिटी जो आजकल डिमांड है, सस्टेनेबल प्रोडक्ट्स, एंड आई थिंक
That's also an
Yes.
important thing to consider. Great. So we have some time for audience Q&A. If there are...
Hi, my name is Kriti. I teach at NIFT, and we've been talking a lot about D2C. So my question is for Seemantini. You talked about having challenges with D2C for a craft-based business. So could you just maybe talk a little bit more about those challenges, please?
I mean, where do you begin? It starts with the content creation
Oh, okay.
to customer acquisition. So it is an entire activity in itself. So creating content, for example, we don't have in-house, we don't have the resources to do anything in-house. So initially we used to wing it, but now the marketplace is very demanding. So everything has to be on point. And we are very particular that our customer receives, not only the best narrative, but also the best quality of product. So there are a lot of problems even with the supply chain, in terms of logistics. So logistics is one problem. We have all these shipping, companies, Picker, Shiprocket. I mean, if you have a problem, you can't even reach them because there is, there's just an email that you write to. So there is that problem, and then there is, of course, content. So content, for that you have to outsource everything: photographers, video editors. So that is again a huge cost. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Meera
Any more?
also had a
Yeah.
question.
Hi, this is Meera from Creative Dignity. My question is to Deepanshu. You spoke about finance for startups after they've worked on their innovation. But what about finance for innovation itself? Where would that come from?
I mean, see, there are, we also, from the fund that we have a certain portion of the fund dedicated to giving out grants for product innovation and very initial stages where somebody is an individual, hasn't even formed a company or something, and they are looking to create a product or something, product innovation. So we have grant, there are several other grants also, and I also feel, this is something I say at every forum that I visit, that these days I haven't seen the kind of grants that are sponsored by the government itself for so many entrepreneurs that is there at this moment right now. I haven't seen that in the past at least, right? There are grants for women entrepreneurs, there are grants for textile entrepreneurs, there's grant for craft entrepreneurs, there's a grant for every kind of entrepreneur that you are, and you can put yourself in sectors. So if you're a craft company, you're also a climate change and sustainability company, because ultimately crafts are sustainable. They are made from natural products, they degrade into becoming natural products, so that entire life cycle is sustainable. So you can fall in that category also. I feel that a lot of those grants are up for grabs, and there are so many challenge competitions that come up from the government. There are so many these small 5 lakh, 10 lakh, 15 lakh grants that are coming in. I think people need to really bank on them. They need to keep those government websites, especially like, for example, our Niti Aayog website from where we are funded. Bookmark those websites and keep visiting for new challenges that are coming up. That's a great source for product innovation grants that is coming in directly from the government without any strings attached. That's also a beauty of that grant. Though I have contradictory opinions about it, but I do feel that they have no limitations to how somebody can be funded. And those are some of the sources that I feel can be there. But as an investor, I don't think you can expect an investor to invest in product innovation. Even in tech side, investment happens after the first level of blueprint or MVP, as we call it, has been created. Nobody really
That
invests
has
in.
to be grant.
Yeah, that has to be grant, and there are several sources that are available from government, and of course, you guys are well aware of the non-government funders that are coming in. But from the government also, I feel there are so many funding sources that people are not aware or maybe banking upon. That's yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions? I think we have time for one question, one more question.
Having worked with craft companies, you said you funded about 5. Have you come up with a blueprint for a different kind of business plan? Or are you using the same business plan that you would use for mainstream industry for craft businesses?
Uh, See, I think business plan largely remains same. I mean, it's a generic template, I would say, for a business plan. You submit your financials, you submit your traction, you submit your average product value, and all of that. But I think what we have seen, at least the 4 companies that we have invested, is a lot of focus on product innovation. They're trying to do something very new with an existing traditional craft form. They're trying to use that particular art in a completely different product format. Those are the kind of things that we have seen. And I think that is what led to us deciding on investing in that company. Because business plans largely pretty much.
But even like when you're looking at working capital and the rotation of working capital is very different in craft industries
Yes.
when it's seasonal.
Yeah.
You're probably able to rotate it maybe twice at the most. So how do you kind of factor in that kind
Yeah,
of?
so I actually, I mean, I think this was mentioned in the beginning of the panel also about the seasonality of the business. One of the panelists mentioned. I mean, see, this is what we have seen is entrepreneurs are coming up with creative ways of making their business non-seasonal now, right? So it cannot be, obviously, if it's a seasonal business, as an investor also, it is very difficult to decide and invest in that particular company because you would say, we will be able to repay or whatever the money in say 3 months, but after that the business is dull, so we can't do it. So we have seen entrepreneurs coming up with creative ways of making sure that their products are not just seasonal in nature, but they are trying to make them like regular D2C consumer products, and that is what has worked at least in the 3 or 4 companies that we have invested in.
But if you were to take materials like cotton and silk and wool, they are very seasonal. However much you adapt it to, different seasons, there is a particular seasonality about it, and which blocks up working capital. How would you address something like that?
Uh, See, I mean, obviously, if it's it's a completely seasonal business that 6 months you sell and 6 months you don't, then unfortunately, I don't think that bodes down well for an investor perspective. Well, you mentioned cotton. Yes, there's a seasonality, but there can be diversity of products that are there in cotton that can be sold across seasons or around the clock in an area. There could be accessories you could build. That's what I've seen in my experience from enterprises. I'm not saying that template works for all crafts or all enterprises. It may not work for the craft you're working on. But the entrepreneurs that have come to us and have been selected, they have diversified their product range to make sure that their hero products are getting sold in those seasonal cycles, but during the non-seasonal cycles also, some of their ancillary products, it could be accessory, it could be a small gift or something, they're still selling. So their business is still viable. So if it's completely seasonal, I don't think it goes down well for an investor. And I don't think we have evolved enough as an investor also to factor in that seasonality. That is something I acknowledge. But as of now, I don't think if it's a completely seasonal business, it's an investable business at the moment. Yeah.